All right, so we are starting to look at the next topic that we're considering. This is going to be different types of voting methods. We're going to have a total of 5 different voting methods, or 4.5 different voting methods, depending upon how you want to count them. And so the first we're going to talk about is called the plurality voting. Now, this is the way that U.S. elections work here in our country and a lot of places around the world. We're going to be looking at a variety of different ways of counting votes, different ways of manipulating votes, different ways of declaring a winner. I'm going to take a look at 2 different examples starting off. Back in 2020, it was a contentious election, and I want to look at just numerically, no kind of consideration politically one way or another, just did Joe Biden win the 2020 presidential election? Well, what I have here is the confirmed actual declared number of votes total received by each candidate. Joe Biden had his 80 million, Donald Trump received almost 74 million, Joe Jorgensen, the Green candidate, or Libertarian candidate, excuse me, received about almost 2 million votes. Howie Hawkins was the Green candidate, about 400,000, and other people received about 436,000 votes. So looking at those, there's a lot of votes for Biden, a lot of votes for Trump, and then there's just this handful for others. But if we actually look at the percentage of each vote, we find that Joe Biden had about 51.1% of the vote. Donald Trump had 47.2% of the vote, almost 4% less than Biden. Joe Jorgensen had 1.2% of the vote. Howie Hawkins had 0.2% of the vote, and others had 0.3% of the vote. There's our total of about 100%. I think that adds up. Yeah. So we can tell that even if we were to eliminate all those other candidates and said you only could choose between Joe Biden or Donald Trump, even if all of those votes went for Trump, Biden still has what we call the majority. Majority is more than 50%. And then, if somebody has the majority of votes, that means anybody else does not have majority. Only one candidate can have majority. They're the winner. They've got more than 50% of the support. Let's go back to 1992. Did Bill Clinton actually win the 1992 presidential election? Well, yeah, he was president, but it's rare that the incumbent president, so George Bush, had been president from 1988 through 1992. Usually the incumbent president typically wins for whatever reasons. Now here, this was the last time, or time in a while, that we actually had a third-party candidate actually had a not serious kind of position moving into things, but he took a considerable amount of the votes. So we had Bill Clinton, the Democrat, had 44.9 million votes, almost 45 million votes. George Bush had 39 million votes. And then Ross Perot, this billionaire oil tycoon from Texas that ran as an independent, had almost 20 million votes. Along the political spectrum, Bill Clinton's our Democrat, Bush was our Republican, and then Perot was our independent, but more extreme kind of conservative measures. Did Perot take the election away from Bush? All of those votes, what if instead they went up to Bush? Well, let's look at the percentage here. Bill Clinton had 43.3% of the vote. Bush had 37.7% of the vote. And Perot actually had a remarkable 19% of the vote, giving us, there's our 100%. So no candidate actually had majority. And if we think about it this way, Clinton had support of 43% of the country. That means almost 57% was against the winner. But that's how our country works. That's how the vote works. Now, if we look at the Electoral College rankings, that's definitely different. You need to have majority of those votes from the Electoral College. But if we look at just the raw score, Clinton did not have majority. What he did have is our first voting method, what we're going to call the plurality method of vote. This is not the majority vote. We do not need the majority, more than 50%. So the way the plurality method of voting works is that each voter casts one vote for their desired candidate. The total votes for each candidate are tallied or counted up, and just the candidate with the most votes is the winner. So just all you need is more than anybody else. It doesn't matter how many more. It doesn't matter the percentage. You just need more than anybody else. It'll be just one more. And we've seen that in recent elections, both the state, the Senate, the representatives, and the information's out there where sometimes it's decided by 5 votes. So your vote does matter. So we're going to look at a few different examples using plurality and trying things out. First kind of question I'll ask is, what is the minimum number of votes needed to guarantee a win? So here I've got an example. We're going to have 60 votes total. 40 votes have already been counted, and we are considering the 4 assistant principals here at Glastonbury High School. There are still 20 votes remaining to be counted. Now, here's the idea that if you're a campaign manager and you realize that, okay, there's 60 votes out there, we're still in the race here, we need to go out, spend some money, recruit voters, we need to convince people to vote for us and not the other person. So out of, say, those 20 votes, how many do we need so that nobody else can catch us? Now, if we get, I'm going to start off looking at Cominali. So if Cominali receives all 20 votes, Cominali would be up to 37. They definitely win. Now, if Cominali receives 0 votes, those 20 votes could go to another candidate and Cominali would lose. So since there's a point where Cominali definitely wins to Cominali definitely loses, there has to be some break-even point when it switches over. where if you have this number of votes, you're guaranteed to win. But if you don't have this votes, somebody else could win. So the way we're going to do this, I'm going to first assign catch-up votes. And I'm going to look between Quinn and commonality. And I'm going to do that because Quinn is the biggest contender against commonality at this point. I'm going to give Quinn catch-up votes. How many votes does Quinn need to match commonality? So if Quinn gets 5, Quinn's up to 17. That takes our total votes remaining, reduces that by 5. There's 15 votes still out there. Now at this point, we're going to take those 15 votes still remaining. Desired candidate gets majority of the still remaining votes. So desired candidate So if I take that 15 votes, divide that by 2, that's going to give us 7.5. So the majority is going to be 8 votes. If commonality gets 8, and commonality has 25, that means Quinn can get at most 7, bringing Quinn up to 24. So commonality gets 8 votes, commonality is guaranteed to win. Nobody else can catch up, even if we take those 12 votes and put them anywhere else. Now, I'm going to look at Nagel instead. I'm just going to erase this so that we can look at it. Looking at Nagel instead, Nagel's down to 8 votes right now. We want Nagel to win, so I'm going to compare Nagel and commonality. First, we're going to do these catch-up votes. So Nagel needs 9 votes to match commonality with that 17. So I'm going to take away those 9 votes that Nagel gets to catch up to commonality. That means there are 11 votes still remaining. I'm going to take 11, divide that by 2, we're going to get 5.5. That means that 6 is the majority. So if Nagel gets another 6 votes, that means commonality can get at most 5. Nagel would be at 23 votes. Commonality could be at most 22 votes. So how many votes did Nagel receive? Nagel received 9 and 6. Nagel needs 15 votes to guarantee the win. They've got some work to do to get out and rally the vote to make certain that they can pay it off. Now, a campaign manager is going to be doing something like this. What is Trump's chance in Texas? Well, you're going to go and spend money to make certain that you get those votes. How is Trump campaigning in Massachusetts compared to Biden? Biden did not spend much money up in the Northeast compared to Trump will be trying to pull in some votes. So a campaign manager was going to be managing or kind of looking at how many votes do we need. That's minimum votes to guarantee a win. The next kind of question is what's the smallest number of votes possible to win? So here, I've got 500 total votes cast in an election with 6 candidates. We'll look at, we've got candidate A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now, the smallest number of votes. Can somebody win with 0 votes? No, somebody's definitely going to have something more than that. Can somebody win with 100 votes? If they've got 100 votes, then the next person could have 99, 99, 99, 99. Already, that is 496. And then we've got 4 votes for somebody else, giving us 500. So you can win with 100 votes, but is that the smallest possible number to win? The way we're going to answer something like this is going to take 500 and divide by 6, because I've got 500 total votes and 6 candidates. If we do 500 divided by 6, that's going to give us 8. That's 48. 2, 0. That's 3. Okay, so we're going to get, there's a remainder of 2. So if we do 500, we've got 83 with a remainder of 2. Let's see what happens. If we give 83 votes to every single person, completely split this up, we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we add that up, we're going to have 498 votes currently accounted for. Well, if we add 1 vote, bringing somebody up to 84, we're at 499 votes. If we add 1 vote to somebody else, there's our 500 votes. Somebody else is also up to 84. Nobody wins. We've got people that are less, but then we do have a tie. So instead of adding 1 vote in this case, if we add 2, that gets us our total of 500 votes. 85 votes can win. That's the smallest possible number. And we might need to play around with this, but I recommend splitting it up, looking at what's the remainder, and kind of massaging the numbers, making certain that that works. So this is our plurality method of voting. Plurality is just most votes wins. Next up, we'll look at runoff voting.